Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the show for leaders who want real results, not more noise. Join Emmanuel Rose as he helps business builders turn AI from a confusing add-on into a practical advantage with clearer messaging, stronger trust, and smarter systems. If you felt the shift happening in real time, you're not imagining it. In the agentic pivot, Emmanuel calls it the move from experimenting with AI to building with it, so it supports your team, your brand, and your growth. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI. I'm Emmanuel Rose, and my guest today is Matt Soltau, and he is the global business leader at IntelliPass, an AI-powered data integration platform that helps enterprises wrangle 60 to 80 disparate systems so their AI investments actually deliver. He's worked across 6 countries on 4 continents and combines hands-on integration experience with a global compliance perspective. Today, we'll cut through the vendor noise and the hype and talk about fixing the data, which is the nervous system that may be blocking AI-powered marketing. Matt, thanks so much for taking some time to join me on Marketing in the Age of AI.
You appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, you mentioned the 6 countries I worked in. These are actually the 6 countries I lived in. So yeah, it's been a few of them. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. And so where in the world are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Germany, actually. I was previously spending quite a bit of time in Asia, in a few weeks in the US, and then back in Asia again, and after that back in Europe. So I kind of bounce around a little bit, but that comes with a role. And anyways, yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun.
Well, that's when you're the global business leader, you got to be all over the globe, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Look, I mean, you know, it turns out some of the airlines appreciate
it. For sure. Well, that's good. Where in Germany are you right now?
Hamburg, actually, right now happens to be my hometown, so right in the northern part. Honestly, it's a nice time of the year here right now. Hamburg isn't necessarily known for its best weather, a little bit like how London isn't necessarily known for that. But yeah, it's a nice time of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Frankfurt, Cologne, Bonn, that area earlier in the summer, and I just missed the heat wave, so I was happy.
Oh yeah, especially Frankfurt. It's got roasting hot there. I think they were recording like 40 degrees Celsius. That's almost unheard of. I mean, there's what's that in Fahrenheit? That's well above the hundreds.
Yeah.
So you should be used to that. You'll be laughing at that, but yeah, it's certainly a little bit unusual, especially for Germany. Yeah.
Well, Matt, let's talk a little bit about data and data integration and what sort of what's the data that marketers should care about, and how do we get it into a spot to be able to use it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, data is all over the place, right? And that's kind of where the underlying problem often really starts to make good use of it. Now, the average organization that we work with, they've got over 100 systems, and you mentioned it earlier, like 60 plus that often need to be connected with another. Now, depending on the type of system, depending on the type of company we're obviously working with, you've got more or less systems within that, especially across different, I guess, departments as well. Sure. Now, the one part that always kills outputs productivity, and this isn't a new phenomenon, but communication across different departments is obviously very, very significant and needed. The other thing is the data between these systems needs to move exactly as freely as well. And to be honest, a lot of the times that is simply not the case. So
Yeah.
what we do as a data integration platform is ultimately making sure that the infrastructure is in place. And with that infrastructure in place, you can really imagine it to be like a plumbing system, right? Like you want to make sure that in your house, you've got all the pipes connected and so on. And then whatever happens in the future, you can ultimately rely on your piping system that's there, and you're not having garden hoses running across your apartment. So, and that's ultimately what we do from a data infrastructure point of view. Now, as obvious as this sounds, I mean, if you're building a house, the plumbing needs to be there and it needs to be solid. Nobody questions that. The
Yeah.
interesting thing is when it comes to applications, this is always overlooked, always. And that's really the part that we're solving, making sure that we're breaking up data silos and really just allowing scalable engagements with your own data in the future. Whether that's a new AI tool that's coming in, whether that's just a normal business application tool that's coming in, whether you're changing a business application tool, whether you want to market better to your audience, all of that really just depends on the right data structure underneath it. That is ultimately what we do.
There's been a lot of updates in the last 2 years where many companies now have APIs, and so there's an easy push pull of data, but there's still a lot of situations where there's not APIs. How does IntelliPass manage that issue of a non-API situation?
Yeah, look, I mean, APIs are more common across the board, so you hardly find applications anymore, especially the modern ones that don't support it. Now, APIs, as nice as all of this sounds on paper, is exactly the problem of the garden hose.
Okay.
So you've got lots of different applications and they need to talk to another. How are you going to achieve that? You can either connect them point to point, and that's where the API story comes in. And to be honest, that's where a lot of the technology vendors are always just saying, hey, yeah, here's our API documentation. And they leave it up to the customer to figure it
Right.
out themselves.
Yep.
Now, the customer isn't necessarily the expert, then they need to get a partner involved and so on and so forth. But through API, you can connect a system very well. Once, that's your garden hose that you're having from A to B. It moves the data, but that data might be relevant in other systems and in other environments, especially in the marketing side as well. Let's pick an e-commerce system. So on the one side, you've got orders coming through Shopify, for example. That information on customer information, not just what they've purchased, but the frequency of and all of that, that is relevant to a CRM system. Now, APIs can ensure that that data moves from Shopify to the CRM system, for example. And then from there, it needs to go to a marketing system, and it needs to go to the shipping system, and it needs to go to the customer service system, and it needs to go to your AI for analysis. And you want to have a fancy dashboard, and API.
Yeah.
That becomes really hard to manage, especially at scale. And that's where we have a tool that ultimately allows to ensure all of this can work, but you don't have to reconnect it every time. So you don't have to run another hose somewhere trying to get an element of data somewhere, because you can tap into the existing infrastructure that's there. And if one additional system needs to benefit from a customer order, or 5 in this example that we just had, the CRM and the shipping system and the customer service tool and the marketing tool, etc. So all of these can be updated at the same time. And now if you add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional applications to your system, to your organization, because they obviously add value for different reasons, you don't have to reconnect it every single time via API one point to another point, but you can literally use the existing infrastructure and benefit from that entire data that's there. And that's really the game changer. The cost to deploy on API, the cost to maintain, if that's not managed right, becomes a nightmare. And that's where all the integrations fail. So because if that's not done on a central layer, you've got plenty of issues left and right that are coming up again and again. And frankly, It's that then causes all the outages and incorrect information that's coming out. And why do we want to do all of this? Is because the integration failures, by the way, they're not always just technical failures, right? They're ownership failures, because there's not one particular person in place that really just takes care of all of it at large. And what happens if we don't have that data? AI personalization, anything else in terms of data that can really benefit from the existing data that you actually have. If you don't have access to this, and if you don't base your API personalization, just as one isolated example, on that, the broken data really just automates the wrong answer faster.
Right.
So that's why you need to solve your data infrastructure.
Now, something I know you have a suite of solutions already, or connectors for marketing. But if I'm just trying to create a dashboard, let's say from my my LinkedIn automations, my cold email automations, my ads automations, and my CRM. Is IntelliPass built to be able to do something as simple as create a dashboard for that, or is it or is it more complicated projects that you're looking for?
No. We do simple projects. We do complicated projects. At the end of the day, is we don't build dashboards. We move data. So
Right.
Back to the plumbing analogy, if you've got a fancy new fridge with an ice maker that you want to have, that's the tool that you want to use, and you want to use that in your kitchen. Now, you would want to make sure that because it's a plumbed fridge, and you know what I'm going to be getting at in a second. Again, I'm going to be talking about plumbing works again. That is ultimately, you want to make sure that the fresh tap water comes in, runs through a filter, and output is ice cubes. So the first step we always look at is we do a very honest analysis, and we're just saying, where does your data sit? And you'd be surprised how frequently this cannot be mapped.
They're like, huh? I don't know. What are you talking about?
The larger the organization, the messier this becomes. Like, we've got the general assumption that the larger organizations are, the more organized they are. And there's an element of this. There are plenty of things large organizations can learn from smaller ones, that's for sure. But also the complexity, obviously, with smaller organizations is not as dense as it comes with, especially multinationals that we also deal with.
Sure.
So we've got customers that are in the SMB space, and we add value exactly how you sort of said. A LinkedIn automation, for example, comes in, simple marketing automations from our point of view. We've got other customers that are in the manufacturing space for some of Germany's automotive suppliers here, for example.
Yeah.
Completely different use cases, but at the end of the day, it is also data. Now, what do you do with that data then comes down to the use case. And a small use case in your example here with, a LinkedIn automation that goes into a newsletter, and then you want to run some updates on it. You may want to have an AI to schedule some, create some content. You then want to schedule the messaging that goes out there. All of that we can completely automate end to end. So that's what the platform is for.
Yeah.
Now, the endpoints of that, we will not replace a LinkedIn. We will talk to a LinkedIn. We will not replace your ERP system or CRM system, but we will talk to it. And whichever data is necessary, whichever data needs to be enriched, whichever data we need to create with AI in the process of this, that is all the orchestration of all of that. That is what we manage.
Yeah. And so talk through one of the use cases that you're working on right now.
Look for, so we've got a global partnership actually with a point of sale provider. They're called Roller POS. They're very much used in the entertainment space. So, entertainment venues, bowling alleys, go-karting places, I think that's a good one to talk about, because everyone has kind of been in one of these sort of venues, and probably subconsciously, not directly as a user, but has kind of engaged with Roller at some point. Two things are happening here. New data is coming in all the time. These are transaction data, for example, booking data. So let's run through this here, booking data. You would go to your favorite escape room website. They happen to be a Roller POS customer. You type in your details and you're going to run your birthday party or whatever else. You've got 20 people. You're booking out the entire escape room. Okay, going to be, obviously a great afternoon ahead of you. That information suddenly becomes relevant, not just for the Roller system and from a planning perspective, but, and now hear the point, you need to make sure the rostering from a venue's perspective now, right? Like you want to make sure your rostering is in place because 20 people require more attention than 5 people coming in, for example.
Sure.
You want to make sure that catering is taken care of. You want to make sure that, your marketing system, for example, are up to date. You want to maybe send some reminders saying, hey, make sure that, your party is coming up in a week. Sign some waiver forms. All that sort of stuff that might be required. These are all different data points that, to be honest, for the most part, would typically require manual intervention. Some general manager of the escape room will have to go manage the calendar, manage the roster, update the marketing tool, remember to write an email as a reminder, all that sort of stuff. We automate this. Once that's done, consumption that's happened in the room plus hospitality expenses and everything else that are happening, maybe that's a corporate party, which means they need to have invoices.
Yeah.
They need to, that manually usually has to be done. We automate that. The bookkeeper wants to know what's actually been going on. In some cases, especially for Roller, insurance is a big issue. So here you've got risk events and non-risk events. If you've got a jumping park or we've got roller skating rinks as customers as well. There's a great one in San Diego, by the way, that we're working with. They're called Ringers Roller Ring. They actually ended up on national TV in Australia, in the US actually recently. A cool place. Anyways, they're risk and non-risk events. And that's something nobody actually thinks about in the moment, but that's something your accountant thinks about because they need to go through these audits. And the insurance companies often don't accept POS data. They want to have audited data that comes out of NetSuite or that comes out of QuickBooks, for example. Right. So where we then also help is take that data, really like automating the business in the background, sending that data to QuickBooks to make sure it can be used for financial analysis, for insurance reviews, for anything else that sort of comes with that. So that's, plus then the marketing automations on top of this. So that's very practical where we ultimately just help automate data flows to help the local team on the ground not having to do all of this manually.
Yeah, and then it ends up creating, I love what you're saying just about automations, and it doesn't even require AI as we understand it. It's just connecting these things and then automating them so that the humans can be more involved in the analysis and less in the clicking and pasting, right?
AI, I mean, everybody loves talking about it, right? Let's be honest. But not everything needs AI. It's great for analysis. It's great for pattern detections. So we're working on a very interesting use case with a large organization in Hong Kong right now. And what's happening here is they're analyzing massive amounts of data in real time. That's all processed via the IntelliIPAS platform related to critical infrastructure issues. So I can't talk more about it, but they are in the financial services space, and I guarantee you, everyone on this podcast would have at least heard of them at some point who were working there. Long and short of it is that all that data comes in, needs to be analyzed, and then real-time predictions, outage issues, root cause analysis need to be done, and we do that at scale. And that's really the exciting thing about it, which probably goes beyond marketing in the age of AI 100%, but it just shows how can you use different data, apply AI if necessary to really make sure something comes out of it. But many of the use cases when it comes to making data available often doesn't even need AI. It just needs a good data foundation layer that gets created, where then your AI tools can they can be built on top of that.
Yeah. And so when you're working, let's say with legacy brands or legacy businesses, what is kind of the roadmap and the timeline that you lay out for establishing, clarifying data lakes and building it into something that's accessible by the plumbing of IntelliPass?
Yeah. Legacy businesses are interesting for two parts. First of all, and this goes a little bit back to your API question you had earlier, not everything in the legacy world, and we're talking, very established long-term businesses, not everything there actually does have APIs. Also, because there are a lot of applications that have been custom built. There was a time where a lot of things have been custom built, millions of dollars across the board, billions probably have been spent on these custom tools, and they were very useful for one organization and one organization only.
Right.
So that is the pure definition of legacy, and these systems still exist, and they're still used, and they're still relied on. And no one's afraid to touch them because of the criticality and the critical data that sits there. Now, we can also connect to those systems, luckily, because there's various different ways outside of API that we can connect. And I don't want to get too technical here now, but there's SOAP connectors, there's database connectors, there's various other ways on how we can ultimately get data from legacy tools.
Okay.
Now, we can update them if necessary, but more important, most of the times, we can read that data and make it available elsewhere. So the second part to your question, Emmanuel, is where is your point of truth? Where should that data live? Because only because it's been sitting in legacy system A for a period of time doesn't mean that this is still today's desired output.
Right.
So that's really where we have to really start on a discovery level and saying, okay, what is the desired point of truth? I was talking to Microsoft earlier today, and they've got, so we work a lot with Microsoft. We've got our infrastructure runs on Azure, among others. And anyways, the challenges that Microsoft customers have, and these are some of the largest companies in the world, like, today we were specifically talking about a blue chip in Germany. They've got data in various different places.
Sure.
On the one side, they've got the data. Obviously, they want to keep it there, but they want to make sure that the data actually gets updated and improved and enhanced, and then talk back and kind of like, they basically said, can you help us or the customer? Can you help them improve their data? Because you've got some information here, you've got some information there, you've got some information outside of Microsoft infrastructure as well. And at the end of the day, we kind of want to make sure that there's a global unified record of this, kind of help us clean the data. Can you do this? Yes, we can.
Yeah, right.
And so, yeah, that's the legacy businesses are fantastic. And now one other part, AI, the data that is most relevant for AI, where AI can learn a ton from, is exactly that data from the server that's got a sticky note on it, do not turn off. That is the digital gold.
Yeah.
That is the digital gold.
Yeah. Well, and I think I think we're headed back to a time when there's going to be more software built just for one business, right? That we have this capacity now, which is really unfettered to build those tools, and that we're going to need to build more local LLMs that are drawing on that server that says do not turn off, so that the rest of the organization has access to the genius that is contained in that server.
Yeah, that's right. And what an exciting time, isn't it? It's internal teams. And that's really where a lot of the AI value, I think, sits. Is they're not the big I think the majority of real impactful AI value actually sits at grassroots level, helping a customer service team, helping a marketer, helping, and so on. And this goes beyond using ChatGPT to create a prompt or to create a LinkedIn post or something. But like real deep analysis, trying to figure out what is our stock inventory levels, various different examples, and then, to your point, smaller applications bespoke to an organization that can be built. Perfect. However, that increases the complexity when it comes to data that needs to flow in and out. So you want to make sure that regardless how many smaller applications you're looking to deploy yourself, that they fit into the overall infrastructure of that. And my call always for companies is to make sure that they've got a chief data officer who really focuses on this and who owns the integration side of it. Because you can have the best idea in the world when it comes to a small bespoke application. If that doesn't have access to other tools or make their own information available to other tools, bidirectional, and that at scale without having more garden hoses running across your organization,
Yeah.
that is really the critical thing to figure out. Yeah, because for anyone who wants to look this up further, type in spaghetti architecture.
Nice, yeah.
Now, imagine a big bowl of spaghetti. Lots of little endpoints, one spaghetti end and another spaghetti end. Somewhere these are two applications that talk to another. Imagine that. And now look at the bowl and try to see and try to pinpoint which ones are broken. Some of the spaghettis in there, I can guarantee you, are broken. You just don't realize it.
Yes.
It's
It's kind of
literally
like
called spaghetti architecture. That's
kind of
what you
like the cords behind the computer and the monitor on your desk, right?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. You want to get to cable management pretty quickly. I mean, how good was it when the Bluetooth mouse came out, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, so it's a fascinating topic if you really drill down into it, because beyond marketing, it's got major business transformation opportunities, and the biggest opportunity and the biggest advantage actually lie with small to medium organizations, because they can heavily punch above their weight if they deploy AI correctly. So we help with custom AI bespoke solutions as well, right? So we don't just do data integration, we build bespoke AI solutions. And they are based on the data layer that's there. Because if it's not there, the use cases will never really make it out of a sandbox environment, especially for larger organizations.
Yeah, and as we've seen in the last couple of years, most organizations are not getting the ROI on it, and that part of it is because just what you guys are solving in Telepass, that it's not bidirectional, and so I really love the work that you're doing. And if Matt, if somebody wants to get in touch with you and have a conversation, how do they do that?
Yeah, thanks, Emmanuel. Look, I think we're even on LinkedIn here right now, so you can obviously find me on LinkedIn, Matt Soltau. Soltau is spelled with an S. You can go straight to our website, intellipass.io. Yeah, besides that, I'm sure there's probably going to be one or two links in the description here, but yeah, it's a great topic. And a final point, Emmanuel, actually, you mentioned a lot of organizations are trying AI and they're not getting to an output, right? So it's Gartner, among other management consulting firms, really looked at that as well in detail. Gartner predicted last year that by the end of 2026, 60% of AI projects will be abandoned simply because unsupported AI data. Basically, the data isn't there. And as a result, the best ideas are going to fail in its sandbox environment, never make it to production. Billions, I think they estimated, I would need to look it up, but it was $50+ billion in global AI investments lost by the end of this year due to abandoned AI projects. And every single time avoidable because it was just AI data that wasn't ready. I've got plenty of examples from insurances out of Singapore recently to other things. This happens all over the place. This is not just a stat.
Yeah, and I think I love the work that you're doing, and I think it is incumbent upon the sponsors of these projects to make sure that they've got good data in, good data out, and that people are able inside the organization to use it as a lever and not just as a shiny object for this quarter.
Indeed, yes.
Well, Matt, I really appreciate your time. And like I said, I love the work that you're doing in helping companies connect their data and build out applications so they can get value from what is already inherently part of their IP. So thank you very much for spending some time with me this evening. And I hope that the rest of your year and travel goes smoothly.
Much appreciated. Thanks for having me on, Emmanuel. I appreciate you.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn.